Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Deaf Awareness Month presentation. My name is Crow7. Thank you guys for coming. This presentation, we're going to try and keep it short and sweet, and then we'll just elaborate on each slide. I personally didn't like long presentations back in high school and college. I typically would get sleepy during that. We've all experienced those long presentations before, right? So I hope this presentation will be nice and be worth your time. Let's go ahead and begin. So, Deaf Awareness Month is a very important moment for the deaf community. Its purpose is to spread awareness about culture, community, language, history, entertainment, society, businesses, and many others. Deafness is not just a disability. Sign language is not just a language. If you only learn the sign language without the deaf culture behind it, it's like standing on the tip of an iceberg. You have to dive down into the deaf community and learn everything from deaf people to be able to see the ice underneath. So, is American Sign Language a universal language? Of course not. It is not a universal language. There's over 300 different signed languages around the world. I'm going to switch roles here and I'm going to ask you the questions. Is English a universal language? Do we just have one language on this one planet? Each country has their own sign language, their own culture, their own unique take on the language.
I think it's a toggle.
So, different things that you can do in the deaf community. You can learn sign language from authentic deaf people and certified teachers, both deaf and hearing. This is very important because you want to learn the deaf people's language. You can, of course, go and search on the internet and find both local and online classes with deaf people and certified teachers. We have authentic deaf volunteers, including myself, here teaching and helping hands. Socializing with deaf and hard of hearing people is also important because you can learn and see both their hands, their body language, and the facial expressions. VR doesn't have that. You get a better experience being able to see the facial expressions. Sign language requires people to use body language and facial expressions in conjunction with the hands, not just hand movements. And of course, the best part is to learn about deaf culture and history. If you learn about deaf culture and history, you will not regret it. You can find informative videos from deaf people on YouTube and articles from any organization anywhere on the internet. The Coda movie on Apple TV may be a good example for you to learn better. An actress in it named Marlee Matlin is a deaf actress and became the first deaf person to win the Oscar award back in 1987. Another actor in the movie, Troy Kotsur, is a deaf actor, and he became the second deaf person to win the Oscar award back in 2022. Marlee Matlin and Troy Kotsur starred together in the Coda movie. The movie itself won the Oscar award in 2022. At the same time that Troy won his Oscar award. It is also very nice to support deaf people who own businesses, make content, influence audiences, make films, manage organizations, and so on. For example, if you're looking for some nice artwork, you could find one from 5/8 Creativity, which is a deaf-owned business. I know everybody also loves to watch videos on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I recommend that you go out and find deaf content creators there. They make so many great videos. You can also go to deaf events in real life, not just here in VR. If you go there, you absolutely will not regret it. I've gone to Deaf Night Out and ASL Chat events myself several times. There were many deaf people there and hearing students, hearing interpreters, and certified teachers. if you attend these kinds of events, you won't be alone, because many of them are also hearing students just like you. Like I had already mentioned, socializing with deaf and hard of hearing people is very important. You should network with these people because they can help you find local or online classes and resources. Please trust me. You can thank me later. Also here, we have a lot of people in VR that may not realize that their country has its own home native sign language. For example, French has French Sign Language. The UK has British Sign Language. Japan has Japanese Sign Language. South Korea has Korean Sign Language. Germany has German Sign Language. Brazil has Brazilian Sign Language. Remember, there is over 300 sign languages around the world. You should take the chance to learn the native sign from your home country, and you won't regret it. Just once in your lifetime. We're going to have a quick intermission so everybody can get a drink.
Go ahead and read the slide. So now we are going to learn about my deaf life. So I have been capital D or deep and fully into the deaf culture ever since I have become deaf. And the reason for that was I had caught a fever when I was 2 years old, and it had sent me into the hospital, and I had to go several times in order to be able to take many hearing tests to see how much I had left. And I had believed that I was the only deaf person within my family, but it wouldn't be until I realized later on that I indeed had a deaf aunt. And she had developed hearing loss later within her life. So, despite us being deaf, our deaf lives are absolutely different. She is not like me, in which I am fully immersed within the deaf culture and the community. And this is known as the deaf spectrum, in which we have those who are fully into the community and those who are not. And there's also the range in which one can hear for those who have residual hearing and those who are profoundly deaf. And everyone's life experiences will be different depending on this level of hearing and their cultural immersion. And keep in mind that not everybody within this community is the same. So I was mainstreamed in school, meaning that I was studying with hearing kids. And this was from pre-K all the way until 6th grade. And I went in my high school year to a deaf school, and it was immediately, I felt a connection there. I was able to use my native language, and I was able to communicate with my peers around me. I went to a school in New York called RIT, or Rochester Institute of Technology, and it was my first time being in a deaf college. And I have made history as a deaf person being a part of their Overwatch esports group. And it was a huge achievement for me because I was their sole deaf person on their team. And this meant that the hearing players I was collaborating with who had to use voice needed to find a way to communicate with me. And so with them having their hearing, we had to figure out our own ways to collaborate and come up with ways to be able to signify things that happen in events within the game. And we had to create plans from A to Z to be able to practice together. As many deaf people are dependent on their eyes and visual things that happen within their surroundings. Despite hearing loss, we still have this ability, and that in of itself is a gain. And this is my heightened sense in which I am like the daredevil, where I have this feeling in which I can see things going on within the area around me. Think of it like Sharingan from Naruto, perhaps. Though, no, I currently do not have my Sharingan activated. When I was in high school, I used to watch a lot of gaming content creators. And many of those videos would either have or have no captions. And when I realized upon seeing videos that didn't have any sort of captions, that meant that there was no way for deaf people to be able to have access into gaming content. And so I realized that I could be able to start that myself. Famous YouTubers like Markiplier or Jacksepticeye, and upon many others, who are very famous hearing gaming YouTubers. They have greatly inspired me in order to become a gaming content creator. And I wanted to be able to bring influence from deaf culture and my sign language into what I do now. And this moment had greatly changed how I saw the world. And when that had happened, you would see more deaf YouTubers being able to create their content, and that would become further prolific, where they would be able to share their experiences within the gaming community. And it feels wonderful to be able to support other deaf content creators and share their goals as well. I gotta fix something real quick. Thank you all for coming and partaking in this presentation. I hope that you all had learned plenty from it. And it certainly means a lot to me as well as other deaf people. To make sure that there are people who are practicing and learning our language and students who are learning it more. And we hope that you all continue to learn about our culture, about our history, and partake in our future. And now it's time for our group picture. It was an absolute blessing to be a part of that special group of people and to have a shared experience with hearing students, learning the language at the same time, and with deaf people, being able to be a part of their lives, which is a big thing about being an interpreter, is that you get to experience these things that if this person were not deaf, you simply would not be able to get a view into this life, and it's a privilege to be a part of that. And I'm very privileged to be able to do what I do because I'm here to raise awareness for deaf people, to advocate for them, and to support them in any way that I can. And again, it is an absolute blessing to be able to do so. I'm not sure what else to say. So if you'd like, you can ask a few questions if you're curious about anything. But I do have a question for you. Are you able to communicate or compare with how you communicate with people within virtual reality compared to real life? And how different can they be? So, as Crow had mentioned in his presentation, the lack of body language and facial expression, which make up like 60% of this language, drastically reduces the amount of language that you would be getting in real life, because many sort of words like adjectives or verbs are missed because they are crucial to the production besides just what you put on your hands. It comes with your face, it comes with your body, it comes with your spatial positioning within the area that you sign in. And it feels a lot more rich being able to communicate in real life because you get all those aspects. And then here you have the sign language, which in of itself works, and then some of the spatial positioning from where you stand. But when you transition from learning sign language in virtual reality to real life, you're going to be hit with a wave of an overwhelming sense of, oh my God, I've been studying only like a third of this language, and I need to immerse myself further into it because now there's 2 whole other parts, or possibly even more, that I have to get into. So I would say like the big takeaway from that is just the richness of signing in real life. There's so much more to it. Next question is, have you gone to deaf events? Yes, I have gone to plenty. When I was first learning it in virtual reality, I would make it a key point to be able to attend as many Helping Hands events as I could, because you're not going to be able to learn a language if you don't use it, and it just sits in the back burner in your mind, or if you're just studying virtual or studying the vocabulary. Being able to put it out is what's going to make you better at it, and also those who do go to deaf events are very encouraging to be able to help you develop your skill, because there's a lot to it, like I said, with all the aspects and facets of ASL and other sign languages. But these deaf events are full of people who are probably some of the nicest you will ever meet in your life, because they're either students who share your experiences, your struggles, your insecurities, and then there are the seasoned interpreters or certified teachers or the deaf themselves who want there to be more access for their language that they use. It is very vital that you attend these events as much as you can, and just know that you all start somewhere, and it only goes up from there. The more you go, the more you put yourself out there. Now, as for the last question, Do you have any sort of advice for new students who are now just starting to learn and pick up sign language and get themselves involved in the deaf culture and the community? What would you say? Okay, 3 things. So first, like I said, use the language with deaf people. Use it with interpreters. Use it with teachers. They will be able to help you develop and hone that skill, because the 2 parts of ASL with production is the expressive and receptive aspects, and both require practice. And tied to that, try your best to use both as much as you can. Don't get caught up being the only person signing in one conversation, and then don't end up sitting just watching the other person sign. Force yourself to do things that you're not comfortable with in the language, and you'll feel both get better over time. The next thing is make sure you are learning from the correct people, because we tend to, as students, neglect that vital resource of deaf people and their language, which belongs to them and not the hearing people. And we don't want any sort of incorrect changes happening with the language should you learn from a student who produced the sign incorrectly. And lastly, get yourself involved with any sort of businesses that you know in your area that are deaf-owned. There probably may be one if it's a bigger city, because they're a great experience besides just going to deaf events, because you get to see in action the locals, the workers there, and use the language in a practical way, where outside of an event, it's like, oh, well, there's a business here that generally only uses sign language, and you'll be able to just feel a lot more sense of belonging with that and using the language there. Thank you for answering your questions, and again, thank you everybody for coming. We do have everything recorded today, so we'll be able to post that, and I hope you all enjoyed and had a great time.